In this video, we are going to derive the distance formula using the Pythagorean theorem. So, the distance formula and the Pythagorean theorem help us find the length of this line segment on a coordinate grid. So the Pythagorean theorem looks like this. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So I use squares of the side lengths of a right triangle to find this. So what I'm going to do is I am going to do that one in blue and do this one in pink, and I'm going to create a right triangle right here. All right, so the first question is, how long is this length right here? Well, obviously it's 1, 2, 3 units long, but I use this x coordinate and this x coordinate to find that distance. And what I do is I subtract those two x coordinates. So I do x2 minus x1, and that gets me 3. In the other one, this length for the vertical line of this right triangle is clearly 1, 2, 3, 4. But the way that I do that is I use this y value and this y value, and I subtract the difference. So I do y2 minus y1, and that's what gets me this length of 4. Okay, so in the distance formula equation, I'm only going to use the x1, y1, and x2 and y2 coordinates. So if I'm basing it off of a squared plus b squared equals c squared, well, maybe I'll rename this one a, and I'll rename this one b. So instead of saying a squared, what I'm going to do instead is put in x2 minus x1, because sometimes I won't know exactly what this length is. I'll have to use the x coordinates to figure out the length by subtracting them. Okay? And then I still square this because it's based on the Pythagorean theorem. I add it to the b, which is y2 minus y1, and I still square this. So instead of saying b squared, I'm going over to my diagram and I'm using this line right here, y2 minus y1, to place it in here. This is going to give me the distance d, which is d squared. So instead of calling this c, I won't call it c, I will call it d. D stands for distance. And instead of leaving this as d squared, what I can do is take the square root of both sides. So using a red pen, I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and I'll put that in here. Take the square root of both sides. And you say it out loud like that. Take the square root of both sides. And what this actually does, this will cancel out this squared and this. So my final equation, my final distance formula will look like this. D is equal to the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared.